Hi everyone, my name is Vikram Kirthapati, co-director of Startup Exchange.
And my name is Ram Chitoth. I'm the logistics program manager for Startup Exchange. Welcome to our Pitch Perfect competition. This is an elevator pitch competition for the young innovators of Georgia Tech, and we're so excited that you chose to come here today.
First off, a huge thanks to our sponsors, as this event wouldn't have been possible without our sponsors, especially during these interesting times. Special shout out to the James Dyson Foundation, Georgia Tech Student Innovation, Contrary Capital, and a special thanks to TSQ ATL Social Club for providing us the venue today and always being such an awesome partner. Next, I'd like to introduce our generous judges. First off, we have Risha Reed, who is the Interim Assistant Director at GT Student Innovation. Next, we have Nikia Malesio, who is unfortunately virtual due to personal reasons. And finally, we have Hunter Hancock, Venture Partner at Contrary Capital.
All right, so we're going to start out with Al Algae as our first presenting group. So let's give it up for Al Algae.
Please give them a second as they're virtual and trying to share your screen right now. There we go. Al Algae, you're muted right now. Please unmute and start from the start.
All right, can everybody hear me?
You're good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Vitko, and let me tell you about Alu Algae. 1,000 turtles dead every year from plastic. 1,000 years for a plastic product to fully decompose. Plastic is undoubtedly one of the worst ways humans are impacting the planet, and it's getting worse every day. Beyond killing wildlife, it releases toxic chemicals, gets into our food supply, and has an array of health effects on our body that scientists have just begun to understand. So, what's the solution? After a year of research, my team has developed a bioplastic that replaces oil as the central polymer with algae. Algae is cheap, clean, and biorenewable. The best part is that it decomposes within 6 months, and I guarantee it won't kill any turtles because it's actually edible. Trust me, I've tried it. So, how do you disrupt a $512 billion industry? You start from the grassroots. 42% of Americans self-identify as environmentalists. If we can tap a small part of that market and sell the bioplastic phone cases we've been prototyping, we would be looking at millions in revenue. And from there, we could expand to selling B2B, literally any plastic product imaginable. I know if anybody is capable of executing this bold plan, it's our passionate team that includes a biology specialist, a product engineer, a business marketing specialist, and an advisor who developed the world's first bioplastic water bottle. So, are you ready to join the algae plastic revolution? Thank you.
Hey, great presentation. I'd like to kind of dive into the questions with how you plan to address the idea of virality. I get that a lot of that early rollout is going to be reliant on selling direct to consumers, getting consumers to adopt this as a sort of trend to actually tell their friends, go buy this, get this phone case. How do you plan to start that kind of grassroots movement around this so that you can then move to the next stage of B2B?
Well, I know that I think it was a huge trend back in 2019 and 2020 where there was a big movement on social media of people who were really saying that, you know, we're killing the turtles with straws and plastic that's going into the ocean. And really, we saw that as an opportunity and said, if we can develop a solution for something that's plastic that can, you know, be used and not kill the turtles and like that. So almost like kind of bring back that movement, latch onto that movement that already exists. And I've done drop shipping, I've done Shopify stores, I've done social media marketing. I have experience with that going onto Instagram and stuff like that. and starting campaigns where you start a promotion where people share this post to their story. And I think from there, stuff like that can really, I think there's a good message behind our product, and I think it can really end up blowing up like that.
Awesome, thank you. And then at what point in that journey do you kind of make the transition from consumer facing to business? How do you make those first contacts on that front?
Well, I think it really comes down to once we're able to have enough, because when you talk about something like producing straws, producing bottles like that, it's really something that you need to do at scale, compared to something like phone cases where you can probably sell with a pretty high margin, and you can sell that to on an e-commerce store. You need to do that to scale. So once we have enough revenue where we can efficiently produce that to scale, I think that that's when we'd be able to go with that. And I have a team member, Nick Santiago, who he's actually gone out, he's found manufacturers, he's developed a patented product. So I think definitely he could help out with getting that bulk produced.
Awesome, thank you. One more question and then I'll hand it off. What remaining implementation hurdles do you anticipate facing in the next few months?
Well, definitely the main goal right now is to finish the product design, finish the actual product when it comes to the plastic. I'd say it's 90% there, but there's just a kind of things, because I've just been working in my house, working out of my garage, where it's not completely perfected yet. But once we're able to get the science and everything together where we can actually make a real winning product that can go viral, I think that's the moment where we can really launch and do big things.
Perfect, thank you.
So I have a question. So it obviously I hear another proprietary process there. So is there any additional markets that could take advantage of this process that you have?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, literally anything that uses plastic can take advantage of this. I mean, literally anything. If you look around, I mean, I have this bottle that I've been drinking water out. Can be made out of the plastic we produce. I mean, I've thought of construction. I've thought of packing materials. When you think about Amazon packaging, how that could be made, because really, our plastic, it's so versatile. You just change up the recipe a little bit, and you can make something that goes from something that's very thin and can be used like sheets to something that's very thick and very durable and can be used for building things. So, I mean, literally, if you imagine anything that can be created, it can be made out of our plastic.
All right, thank you.
Do we have time for any more questions? One more question? Okay, so my question is, at the actual product itself, how stable is this compared to other types of plastics? Can that literally replace plastic, or is more cardboard or anything like that? What are we talking in terms of durability?
Well, where we are right now, I'd say it's 90% of this. It's very close. There's a few issues with that where it comes to its water resistance, but we're working that out using beeswax as a way to prevent it from deteriorating from water. But when it comes to the actual durability, the strength of it, it's 90% there when it comes to normal plastic. And we've also experimented if there's anything that we need to make higher strength, like phone cases maybe need to be higher strength. We've experimented using ecologically friendly fibers that we put inside of the plastic, and then that prevents it from being able to tear or being able to break in any kind of way.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to Algae for that great presentation, and thank you judges for the great questions. Next, we're going to hand it off to That's So Local. So give it up for That's So Local.
Hey, can you hear me all right? Cool. First thing, the slides to get up. Cool. So I'm McKay.
I'm Lily.
And I'm Devon.
And we're That's So Local, a virtual Main Street in support of small, independent, and local businesses. So the problem space we're working in, we observe a large amount of cultural momentum against big tech, in particular Amazon. And often the way this manifests itself is people love to shop at small businesses. But yet despite this, Amazon controls nearly half of all online sales. We're working in this gap to arm small businesses with a tool to be discovered online.
In particular, small independent businesses. We're interested in delivering a product experience that is quality, stress-free, local, and product indexed. That's something that's currently not on the market right now. We're trying to become the virtual Main Street. In addition, obstacles, we are interested in building a trustworthy brand. This is something that you don't really see in big tech, and we're really just trying to focus on creating a product that is both transparent and focused on community.
It's more than a brand. So our business model is quite unique. We're organized as a platform cooperative. So that means our shareholders are our merchants and our consumers. So we don't just have users, our platform has members.
As for the feasibility of our idea, our market research suggests that merchants are willing to pay $15 per month in addition to a 10% commission on all their orders for membership on our platform. And we estimate there to be a $150 billion market space full of untapped potential.
Another part of feasibility is our team. We believe we're the best equipped to face the challenges ahead. I have 4 years of experience in big tech at the likes of NVIDIA and Facebook.
I have experience in design and digital marketing.
I've turned ideas into products.
And our friend Cascade, who wasn't able to join us today, has 4 years of experience in recruiting and funding for nonprofits. And that's our vision for That's So Local. Thank you for your attention.
So I guess my question is tied to the actual product itself. So are people buying from you through the online platform, or this is how they actually find out more about that local store?
Yeah, so essentially, the product index is the important part here. So on Google, it's very easy to find a local business, right? Like, I want a local, clothing store. It's very hard if you're looking for a specific product. So if you want like women's sunglasses, right? You search Google, you search Amazon, you're going to find Dillard's, Belk, Target. You're not going to find your small shops. So effectively, what we're doing is creating a search engine that searches the Shopify's, BigCommerce's, and WooCommerce pages of the local businesses in a region.
So I guess my other question is, so how are you differentiating yourself from, say, Etsy or other?
Yeah, so from Etsy, we differentiate ourselves with our membership because there's that large upfront cost and the subscription. We're only doing full-time businesses, right? So we don't want the person in their garage that's sewing wallets after work. We want someone who's got at least themselves, maybe an employee or two. Because we want to be a reliable source, right? We're trying to take sales from Amazon. So when somebody orders from our site, we need to make sure fulfillment is essentially guaranteed.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have a question. So I get, people trying to find products, and sometimes that can be somewhat of an arduous task, but what about maybe focusing on like the new designer, the new creator, and helping people find that person, as opposed to just trying to carve yourself into a market that already exists?
Yeah, so that's something we could do. The trouble here is a lot of the pain points with big tech that we notice is people feel like they're fighting or bribing an algorithm, right? Merchants really don't like that. And so what we're doing by taking the serious sellers and geofencing them into a region is that our volume of sellers is in that Goldilocks region where we don't need a fancy algorithm, right? Within about 5 minutes, you could find all the sellers that are making your product. So if we open it up to kind of the aspiring sellers, we'll start getting that high volume and start to need to have some sort of opaque sorting algorithm that is kind of preferential, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, but you're still going to have to, and I would encourage you guys to maybe, maybe sub-segment a little more to kind of if there is some specific types of sunglasses that people are looking for, or do they go to their eye doctors and they're requesting sunglasses with prescription, the further you segment, the lot easier it will be to make sure that you're hitting the right customer that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you. We're putting out kind of like a consumer survey right now, so we'll be sure to incorporate some of those questions in there.
Yeah, thank you.
First off, great pitch. I understand the sales pitch really well from the business perspective, right? You want to drive this additional traffic. You want to incentivize people to purchase locally. How do you drive the consumer side of that same platform so that these businesses are actually able to be driving additional traffic through this rather than just pushing their existing customers to a format where they can also see them alongside competitors?
Yeah, so our background research is pretty well established. Consumers buy products based on where they initiate their search. So, for example, Amazon receives twice as many product searches as Google does. And so it's really about the search engine more than it is about how SEO you are. So our consumer pitch is, hey, start your search here if you want to find local. And there we're kind of capitalizing on the pain point of not their existing customers, because the whole idea with Shopify, right, is we'll do fulfillment, we'll do selling, but discovery is on you, right? So if you already know about the business of Shopify, you'll go straight there. That's where we kind of get this exposure piece of, I don't know a business right now, and I need to find one, right? We're really kind of a search engine in that sense. We're going to find a product in a region for you. We'll kind of like, and then we'll route the sale to Shopify, if that makes sense. We're a modular approach.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yep. All right, we actually have an audience question for you guys. What is your strategy for rollout? Is it one city at a time? How will you recruit members?
Yeah, I can take this one. So the big thing here is I think that we're focused on local. I think for an MVP, it makes sense to focus on one city and then roll out one by one. That approach allows us to easily talk to our users and get like a more focused idea of what we want to do and what the UI will look like. And then it'll be an iterative process from there.
Okay, great. The person online stole my question. So my follow-up question to that was, based on what you answered in terms of going from city to city, would that vary in terms of prices? I know you had a set price listed on there, but different cities, the markup, would that be the same?
Yeah, definitely. So on the prices, that's our research in like small towns around Atlanta in particular. And so those numbers are rather flexible. We're fine tuning them. The kind of the point I want to drive here though is that we're quite profitable with the margins, right? The cost it makes for us to actually execute a sale is tiny, right? All we got to do is make an API call essentially and make the search. And so even if those numbers in a particular city are half of the ones for Atlanta, we're still profitable. So there's plenty of room to adjust those numbers. And because we're locally focused, our merchants are more than willing to accept that. We've even explored merchants are very open to the idea of some sort of revenue-based number where it's like, you know, if your revenue's in this range, it's $15. If your revenue's in this range, you pay $20, or something like that. So we can give some of those aspiring sellers a chance.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to That's So Local. Next up we have Neurogram. So let's give it up for Neurogram.
How is it now? Doing good. That's nice. Right on. Can I start? Right on. Yeah. So epilepsy is one of the most common neurological diseases today. It affects the central nervous system, making brain activity become abnormal, causing seizures, convulsions, and death. It may not be your reality, but epilepsy is the reality for 50 million people around the world. According to the World Health Organization, the risk of premature death for patients with epilepsy is 3 times higher. Now, one misconception about epilepsy is that an epileptic seizure involves convulsion of the body. That is not always the case. A seizure is a burst of electrical activity in the brain. Unless it is accompanied by convulsion, it is invisible. If you suffer from a seizure for longer than 5 minutes, you risk permanent brain damage and death. All right. So here's our problem. How is epilepsy diagnosed? It's only diagnosed by specialized doctors visually inspecting an electroencephalogram, or EEG exam. These exams can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 24 hours long, and sometimes take hours and days to process, visually inspect for signs of epilepsy. That's why we created Neurogram. It's a software for automatic epilepsy detection. We collected 500 epileptiform discharges, ooh, fun slides, 500 epileptiform discharges, and used them to train an artificial intelligence that can detect a difference between a normal EEG and an abnormal EEG. So here's the situation. Let's say a patient lands in the hospital in the emergency room. Their condition of their brain is unknown. A nurse performs an EEG, sends the signal to Neurogram, and Neurogram responds with only what the doctor needs to see to diagnose epilepsy. That's it. We can perform a 20-minute EEG exam for emergency rooms in 2 seconds. That's how long it takes to process, at a cost to the doctor of only $30 a month. Run by Daniele DeMari and built by myself, Philip Morgan Kinney, we are Neurogram. Thank you.
So you talk about this 5-minute window, right? Talk a little bit more about that in terms of what's the relevance related to, because at that time when that person is having that seizure, right, this doesn't tie into your product, right? So kind of walk us through what does that
Sure.
signify
It's a condition, and the terminology is called status epilepticus. The idea is it's just an arbitrary point. Once you get past 5 minutes of seizure, your brain is most likely to devolve into, oh, I'm sorry, that's not the button I meant to hit, devolve into brain damage, long-term brain damage, and sometimes death. So the idea, I brought it up just to show that epilepsy is it's a dangerous condition, and it's invisible, most importantly. You don't always know when a seizure is happening. It's not clear. Convulsions aren't the norm when somebody's having a seizure. So when somebody lands in the emergency room, you don't always know if epilepsy is what they're suffering from or if it's another condition.
So the idea then is to get to diagnose a condition before they reach to that point where that 5-minute thing happens, right?
If necessary. I mean, sometimes sometimes you cannot get to the patient fast enough. But the idea is being able to treat epilepsy, say the patient lands in the emergency room and, they pass the 5-minute window even. The doctor still needs to know what's happened to them so that they can provide treatment. There are medications, there are treatments, sometimes surgeries that doctors can perform to alleviate some of these symptoms of like long-term damage from epilepsy. So it's simply a diagnosis engine, making it faster for doctors to be able to diagnose epilepsy in their patients.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if Hunter, can I ask one more?
So I have a.
Yes,
Yeah, so
Nakia, go ahead.
I have a question. So sorry, my internet, so that you're just going to hear my voice. So you said that people really don't know that there isn't, like, when they're having epilepsy. My question, I will push back a little bit on that, because there are certain electrical biomarkers that people could wear, certain sensors that can give off certain electrical impulses. Like, for instance, that's how people to detect arrhythmia within the heart. If there are certain issues with electrical impulses. So are you trying to create like a early warning like device detection system, or I'm just trying to understand what you're trying to create here?
Gotcha. Not at all. Not an early warning detection system. We're trying to help doctors' workflow. We're trying to help doctors come up with their treatment plans faster and easier. Saves them hours and hours and hours of their day. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's some perhaps devices people can wear to help with the early detection of epilepsy. But it's not always accessible to everybody. For example, our target audience at the moment is down in Brazil, and they don't have quite as much money as we do. They don't have quite as much, free-flowing medical technology as we do. So what happens with them is they suffer. They don't know why. They show up to a hospital and they ask for help. What we do is we help doctors provide that treatment. We speed up the process. We speed up how quickly a doctor can look at a patient and say, this is what you're suffering from, and this is how we can help.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. So still trying to work on this a little bit. So are you focusing on the potentially wrong medical beneficiary?
Say that one more time, please.
So you say you're saving the doctor time, but the doctor is actually not doing anything, right? So are you saving the medical system time?
Sure. I mean, we're reducing the time it takes for a patient to show up in the hospital and get treatment. So overall, that entire process involves multiple people. A nurse or a technician will perform the EEG. They wait for it to process. A doctor steps in and scans it themselves, or another EEG technician scans through the EEG signal. And that whole process is the span of hours and sometimes days. So our plan is to just shrink that down as much as we can so the doctor can come back as soon as possible with a treatment plan.
So with that in mind, so have you actually spoken to the doctors or the medical, because I'm thinking that you're reducing that to $30, but they're also reducing all the money they can make on that time.
Interesting. Yeah, we've talked we're talking with a lot of doctors in Brazil. So my partner, she's brilliantly connected with specifically like neurologists and clinicians in the epilepsy world in Brazil. And what they told us, is there's a significant amount of frustration with the software that's currently available. I mean, it's not exciting. I mean, it looks like it's made out of like the 1920s. And that's what they have to deal with. You know, they do all this stuff manually. And I don't know, from what we've picked up, we haven't picked up on a financial concern. At least from our interviews, nobody said anything like, well, we want this to stretch out because we want money. But really what it seems like is they want to do the best work that they can, and they're being limited by what's already available. And what's available is, you know, well, it's one step away from having a printed out EEG exam and having to scan through it yourself with a pencil. So
the buyer in that case would not be the doctor, right? Because they just show up and use whatever is there. So it would be the buyer for the hospital that you would need to talk to, right, to see whether or not that's something they actually want to implement.
that's right, the hospitals or the clinicians. And, you know, the clinics are usually smaller, easier to get in contact with.
Just for future.
One more quick question. What is the long-term vision here? Like, if you were to take this technology to the extreme, what would that look like? What kind of good could be achieved here?
That's a really good question. Danny and I were playing with this idea a while back, and we wanted to step into neural prosthetics. So this whole area of being just simply in the neurology space and helping neurologists and neuroclinicians with their jobs gives us the access, gives us the insight we can to kind of navigate through the neurology world in general. You know, like both of us kind of joke at and poke fun at Neuralink and that type of software. It's exciting stuff, but that's all, you know, 10 years down the line of, you know, if all of this survives, if we've gone through the proper customer research and learned what we need to and actually provide something now that doctors can use, then, you know, we just want to navigate in the brain world because brains are fascinating.
Awesome. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So I think we're, one more? Okay. So tell us about your very next step. Like, how do you move this out to the market?
So Daniele, she is an EEG technician. So I kind of treat her as my first customer. I want to build a software that she can use. That way she can tell me immediately all the problems, you know, what frustrates her. And on top of that, we're actively, you know, consulting. She's been taking out like hour-long interviews with a couple doctors and clinicians who, you know, are graciously taking their time to tell us, you know, about our prototype, the issues with it, what they actually want to see out of it. So right now, I've got like a solid working prototype. I've got a, you know, properly working EEG display. I've got the spike detector, the epilepsy detector is at premium quality. I mean, it really is like 97% accuracy, which is very competitive compared to the 85 to 90 of the currently available software. So taking this prototype and continuing to expand on it until she has something she can work with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
All right, thank you, Neurogram, for that awesome presentation. Next up, we have HitSnag with their presentation, so let's give it up for them.
Is this on? All right, is this on?
Hello. Awesome. Hi, everyone. We're HitSnag, shortcuts to your favorite productivity tools.
So who are we? High school seniors? Software junkies? Failed comedians?
Yep, that's us.
That's us. I'm Aiden, and I've started projects used by hundreds of people, and I've started my first company when I was 14.
My name is Yash. I worked at NASA for a few years, and then I realized that startups were a heck of a lot cooler, so now I'm the chief typing officer here at HitSnag.
Yeah, so working together, we realized that we experience the same problem frequently. We email ourselves a lot.
And what we've come to realize working together is that multitasking simply is fake news. An IDC study actually showed that professionals spend up to 5 hours per week just looking through files. And both Aiden and I know that while we're working with each other, juggling all these different productivity apps gets super unproductive. Simply put, multitasking is costing you and your company time, money, and most importantly, your sanity.
Skip this slide. So this is why HitSnag is LitSnag. So you usually find yourself looking for that file or app, but now we're a universal notepad into any of your productivity tools. So you can send that $3 million idea at 3 a.m. right to your Trello or Google Docs. And we're currently working to integrate Notion.
Here's why we win. HitSnag gets more powerful as the more productivity tools that are on the market. Those are just more apps that we can integrate with. We're also looking to market specifically to early to mid-scale startups, especially those which have large teams or mid-sized teams which have salespeople and PMs and coders that might be able to use this product. And also, we know we're right for the job because we're both technical co-founders with a Rick Astley level, never gonna give up attitude.
Need we say more? So this is our master plan. So step 1 is done. We currently have a couple users on there that are paying, and we're watching them very closely to see what they do. Step 2, we integrate with Slack and all of your other chat platforms to be able to catch anything you send to us. Step 3, make that even more useful by doing multiple tasks at once with your productivity tools without even you lifting a finger. All you have to do is tell us.
Thank you so much, y'all. We're going to leave you with Kona, who's our Chief Happiness Officer. Oh, and please, yell at us. We're looking for PMs, coders, salespeople, just anybody who can be a new user.
We're desperate.
We'll give it to you for a discount or even free. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
I'm curious about the business model here. I think it's a strong offering. It's something I could see myself using. How do you convince customers to pay both for the original productivity apps that you're integrating with and for this as an overlay on top of that?
So it really depends on how much time you're spending in your productivity apps. So if you're spending a lot of time in Notion and transferring things back and forth from apps, usually that's the pain point that we're going for. And small startups usually are heads deep in that. They're very, very much focused in between and trying to stay in flow. And I mean, if you're already in an office, sometimes you might be breaking flow by just working in that office. So to answer your question, basically it depends on how much you're using your productivity tools, and you might pay for it if it's wasting like a bunch of hours of time, as we stated earlier, like IDC, 5 hours and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think there was also an interesting point in there, which is that you may reach a point where it makes more sense for the company itself to be paying rather than the individuals. How could you navigate that transition or prepare yourself to sell more to the company that actually has the money to wield?
So we would be able to give you an integration to your company so you can actually send emails to your service. You wouldn't even need to code an app. This could be a way to eliminate the need for having an app so you can just send it into that app. So we would be able to give them, just a guide or something and personally integrate them like the Collison installation method at Stripe and just be able to onboard them that way.
Perfect, thanks.
Of course.
So
how do
you would have your
go ahead.
app, which is hold on, was Nikia, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. It's okay.
Okay, so people would actually write on your app, and then that would actually go to their different productivity apps, right?
So from any communication service, that's the plan. So right now you don't have to install anything and you can use it straight in email right away.
That's actually one of our biggest selling points is that there's no real installation process. You just have to sign up for us, so it works from your phone, your email, your computer, anything you want.
Yep. And web clippers and those web extensions that send it to one place, you have to install multiple web clippers to go in one spot. And also they don't work on mobile. Browser extensions do not work on mobile unless you have some sort of like mod on your phone or you install a very specific app that's a very, very, very specific problem.
So right now, piggybacking off Hunter's question, so you have the model, everyone on the app at the moment is paying $3.
Yes.
And then you're thinking of scaling that up to $10.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's in the future, yes.
Would that be regardless of whether or not you only need one or you need 10 integrations?
Yeah. So pricing is very dependent on customer feedback, and as we see what features people want the most, I'm sorry, was that your question? Okay. So we want to see what apps people are using the most. Right now, you can use all of our current apps. We have Google Docs and Trello in there, and you can send it to any boards or any of your Google Docs and update it right there. And just depending on how much people will pay, that's just a lot of the feedback. But yes, we're planning on going there and eventually,
I will point out that current pricing is just for regular consumers. For businesses, the pricing is going to be more dependent on what exact integrations that they need. So let's say if they need Notion or if they need Asana or whatever they need, we can specialize it for them and we'll charge a specific price based on their specific needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I totally get it. It totally makes sense. What you guys are doing, but I kept going back to, I can just find something on Zapier to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We have a slide about this.
Yeah,
actually.
we have a slide about
can
this.
Can we pull this up? We cut this slide from the presentation for time, but sorry, keep going with your question.
No, it's okay. That was my question. But go ahead. You can explain.
Yeah.
So what I can say about like Zapier or IFTTT or those sorts of services, the big issue with those services is that you have to spend time actually setting up those workflows. With HitSnag, everything comes, like we like to say, batteries included. So
And one big thing is, so usually with Zapier, you have to set it up to a specific app or a specific thing. And you can't just change the folder on the fly, or you can't change the document on the fly. You can do that with HitSnag based off of how we've built it. You can just put in like a document title or a card name, create it or add it. Zapier is very specific to functionality on a document. We are able to create and then add to the document.
absolutely.
So a lot more flexibility there.
Okay. Yeah, I think from a business model standpoint, I'm a little concerned about the pricing structure, given the offerings as it relates to that. Because when you think about it from a productivity standpoint, there are tons of apps out there, tons of plugins that people and APIs that can do a lot of the things you're referring to, for free. So I'm just trying to see where like how do you create the real value in the buzz? You don't have to answer that question now, but just something to really think about. Because last thing people want is one more app, one more plugin, one more this, and do they want something that is that's actually less instead of adding one more thing that they have to kind of keep up with in their day-to-day living.
So big thing for us. Oh, sorry, you done?
Yep, I am.
Big thing for us is app fatigue, so we don't want to be that extra app. You don't have to install anything, and while there is many apps on the market and there is pricing, that is of course 100% we're going to take account of that. But usually there's just...
I just want to reiterate that the problem that we're trying to solve here is that there are too many productivity apps out there. So, sorry, there are too many productivity apps out there, so you have to be switching between your Slack, your Trello, your Google Docs, your Notion, whatever you're looking at, right? So we want to be that one-stop shop for all of your productivity tools. So we definitely we want to be removing app fatigue, not keeping on adding on to that.
Yeah.
But let me caution you there on that, because any software or platform is important when you own the customer through and through. And so if you have to connect to all these multiple data points or trying to pull all these, that's going to kind of like devalue what value you're trying to bring. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that playing well with others is important, but also from a customer acquisition standpoint and also thinking through from the perspective of driving value to what you're doing. You want to kind of make sure that there's enough value that you're steering away from customers of saying, hey, well, I can get that for free. Why do I need to use you? Just thought.
Yeah, thank you. We'll definitely look into it.
My question then is, how will you recruit customers? Kind of piggybacking on what Nikia said.
So we've seen people actually making custom apps. They're trying to hack their own way into actually being able to send what they email themselves to other areas. Currently, right now, we're looking at the small teams, but we've seen subreddits where we're actually going to be able to directly reply to these people, and we've already done so on a few threads. And then there's also targeting on Twitter. A lot of people actually complain that they can't transmit data to the app they specifically want, and it can get kind of annoying. So we really want to make sure that we're attacking that area and looking into that area as well.
Yeah, I'll also say that in terms of us specifically, we're also looking to expand to teams, right, and to startups. So we're definitely talking to people at the Atlanta Tech Village, teams and startups who might need this. We've conducted about 30 user interviews so far, and we've sent out surveys. We're building up we have a wait list, and we're onboarding users right now.
And we're about to go onto LinkedIn and ask product managers exactly what kind of ways they're working with productivity tools in a different area apart from we're just looking online to see people different, so we don't get biased feedback.
Well, you just answered my next question, which is next steps. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, HitSnag.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we have Peace Properties. So let's give it up for them now.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Soham. I'm here on behalf of Peace Properties, and we believe that finding land should be a piece of cake. Our team is devoted to developing this product. Me and Sid, we're technical experts here. We're third-year computer science students at Georgia Tech with a background in AI, machine learning, and data analytics. EJ and Conrad are more focused on the business side, and They have expertise in marketing and financials. So to bring up the problem we have here, I'd like to take a bit of a story. One of our co-founders, EJ, and his family was actually looking for a property up in North Carolina. They had a very set of characteristics which they wanted to find the property based off of. So they went to the realtor to try to figure out the perfect property. The realtor and them, they couldn't find the property. The search took too long. They couldn't narrow down by the characteristics. And so we saw that this was a bit of a problem. So we went around, talked to around 100 people, a combination of realtors and normal land buyers, to figure out what their issues were. And we narrowed it down to these 4 problems here. First, it takes way too long to find a property. The land market is not equal to the home market. Land requires a lot more data. There are limited resources on the market, limited tools you could use, and it's very difficult to get a lay of the land without actually visiting it. And so that's where our data aggregation tool Piece comes in. It's designed to take the pain out of searching for this land by taking advantage of diverse data sets that we gather from different sources. Based off of our data that we gather from sources like USGS, government websites, and tax records, we have an interactive search which allows realtors to really narrow down by characteristic to get to that perfect listing that they have. Alongside, we have an integrated graphical UI to easily display 3D visualizations to aid in the finding of that perfect property. Looking at the market, now that we've introduced the product, it's a huge market. The land real estate market is $5.4 trillion large. And there are 1.5 million realtors in the United States who are making land transactions every single day. Looking at our subscription tiers and our plan, we have 3 different plans. I want to focus on our corner plan since we look to target realtors first. Our go-to-market strategy here is to first look at realtors, Georgia realtors. There are 40,000 of them, and looking to capture 5% of them, and charging $200 a year, we expect to make just shy of $500,000 by marketing to realtors. Thank you. We are Piece Properties, and we believe that finding land should be a piece of cake.
Is it possible for you to go back to the last 2 slides?
Yes. Oh, wrong way, sorry.
I'm just looking at the comparison.
Right now I'm working for Marlo.
Is Nakia? Okay, great. Just want to make sure that we're not missing a voice.
No, you're good. I hadn't said anything yet. You're good.
Awesome. So yeah, so explain to me a little bit about the differences, if we could put it back on the screen, about the edge piece and the corner piece. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Right, so our focus here is on the corner piece for an initial rollout. So our original business plan revolved around marketing and talking to people who are actually buying the land. We want to take the realtor out of the equation. But talking to the realtor, we encountered they have the exact same issue that a lot of these normal people have in finding land. They have multiple databases called multiple listing services, which all have different information that isn't centralized in one location. So our corner piece differs from the edge piece in that it offers an enterprise solution for these realtors to be able to integrate all of their MLS data into one location to provide that robust location for them to have everything in one place. And the reason why this is specifically designed for realtors is that MLS data is very private. It's not something the public can see, and only the realtors have access to, which is why we have it in a separate tier.
Okay, so the realtor would actually pay for this, but it's not open to the public.
Correct, right.
Okay, awesome. So based on that, I don't see a difference between commercial versus individual. Is that something that you're not focusing on and that you're leaving that up to the realtor, or?
Sorry, can you repeat that question, please?
Are you making a distinction between someone who, like me, I'm not planning to build a 5-story market situation, not commercial? Are you making a distinction between, say, an individual who's seeking land to build a house versus someone who, say, needs to buy a plot of land to actually build a bunch of houses or commercial property or something?
Right. We anticipate that the data that they require and stuff is very different, but we plan to try to capture everything. And our edge piece offers those more in-depth analytics with 3D visualizations and stuff like that. I think that is a wonderful point, and we really haven't thought of that. We were more looking at more residential people who are looking to buy land, farmers who are looking to buy one plot of land, instead of more commercial land real estate.
Thank you.
Can we talk about that last slide for a quick sec? I think there are a couple of numbers there that stand out to me. For one, it feels like 5% is a lot, right? That's a hard saturation to really optimize for, even in a well-connected market like real estate. But $200 a year feels very low for me. Is there a pricing structure that would allow you to capture more of the value you add, whether that is commission-based or simply charging more?
Right. So our initial idea was to take these MLS providers and try to group them together. And based on our experience talking to the realtors, these MLS providers are sort of third-party tools that the realtors can use and add their data. They charge up to $100 per year per MLS provider. And each real estate agent generally has access to 4 or 5 of these, which means that they're paying $500, $600 per year to use these MLS services to host their data. So we were looking at a number that was slightly lower than that. So we settled on 200. It is a bit underselling, I'd say, given that we're offering these wide variety of tools and resources. We're still working with that. But we've sort of talked to these realtors in this Atlanta area to try to figure out whether they'd be willing to use the product, working with them to try to get a beta out. Pricing is one thing we need to work on.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. And how do you plan to expand sort of regions? I would imagine that you will start Atlanta, Georgia-centric, but kind of move with various regions as you develop. How do you plan to make like a secondary beachhead market there and then continue to grow?
Right, so our initial phase is, of course, to talk to Georgia realtors, particularly Atlanta realtors, and realtors are very well connected. It's a close network. And so one realtor will work in this specific area, will know another realtor in this area. So we plan to travel by word of mouth by realtors and work with them to try to spread across the Southeast and then across the United States. As such, it's a very organic growth given that it's a close network.
Is there any technical reason to block that growth, or is all of your data national?
Currently, all of our data is national. We're using USGS, so national level data. Some of the stuff like property tax comes down to a very county-based thing. So that we're still working out, but a lot of our data is, of course, is national.
Cool, that makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Most real estate agents, they all have their, I guess if you want to call it, their own quirky way of how they get access to data and how they get information. So talk to me a little bit about how do you get around some of those real estate agents that are seasoned, that they have their systems and processes that work really well for them. Like, what would be the value for them to stop what they're using and doing to use your solution? Is it streamlining it, making it easier, faster, more efficient? So talk to me a little bit about that.
Right. So a lot of the realtors we've talked to have been ranging from 15 years in the field to being novices. And obviously the novices have a lot less experience in this field, working with these different multiple databases and understanding the data in them. But we found out that even some of the older realtors in this field also had the same issue. And the issue is that, when realtors access these databases, the multiple listing services, they upload data in whatever fields they feel necessary, which means that there isn't really a consistent form between the data. So typically a realtor will have to search through 4 or 5 different databases for the same property to be able to try to gather a full list of all of the characteristics of a property. And so we're trying to make that process faster, better, for these realtors to not waste so much time in trying to gather this data. On top of that, we're trying to add more data to enrich the searching experience and the data available too. So we did find out that it was a bit of a problem for even these realtors who were working 15 years in the field, who spent hours trying to mull through the data and try to centralize things by themselves.
Yeah, so when you think about when you're out there talking to realtors and you do more customer discovery and get more validation. So when you use words like, better, faster, or more, or efficient, that's going to be tied to like a metric, and also going to be tied to a value, a dollar value to that real estate agent of the time you're saving them and to be able to close more deals. So just something to kind of think about when you're, as you're continuing to validate that product. When someone does say faster, better, cheaper, that usually means there's a metric there. And make sure that you have clarity on what that metric is, because when you start to deliver in your product, and you want to make sure that you are delivering the right value to the real estate agent. And you may find that there may be, certain segmented type of real estate agents, based on age or based on, types of properties they sell or regions they sell in, and and how they acquire and utilize data and how they value that data. So there's a lot to think about in this space, but great job, great pitch, love it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so question for you. So still want to dig into that $200 mark that you talked about. So what are your thoughts in terms of how can you go about actually getting an actual real figure? Because as we talked about before, 200 is way too low. But then how could you actually think through an actual realistic figure because in terms of land prices, while we may talk about the fact that this is the market, not like you're actually selling that every year, right? So you're not making that much money for 200. So can you talk to what that looks like to get to that price point? That's right.
Yeah, so I think one of the key factors would be our different costs of acquisition of data. A lot of our data that we're planning on using and are currently using are from open databases, USGS I've talked about a bit, tax records on national websites and stuff like that. But we're also looking to add third-party plugins like ArcGIS Maps and features that have a bit of a base that we have to pay the company to be able to use, as well as ClimaCell API to get access to environmental factors like pollen, indexes, air quality, that sort of stuff. So we plan to do, I guess, a bit of a tallying of what our base costs are, and then try to figure out how our algorithms can, what their novelty factor is, what they're adding to the data. Because we're not just pulling the data, we're pulling the data and doing something to it to present it in a way that everyone can understand it. And trying to put a number on that, that realtors will be able to use. So I think the best answer will be we'll be in talks to the realtors to try to figure out, what they would be willing to pay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for Peace Properties and really all the teams that have come out here today. It really means a lot for you guys to come here. When we envisioned this entire competition, we kind of wanted to see these innovative ideas. I'm really happy that all of us can come together and celebrate that. Very shortly, we'll be sending out the link to actually vote so that you, the audience, can actually choose the actual winners of this competition. In the meanwhile, I can speak a little bit about Startup Exchange. I know in the beginning we kind of introed it, but we're an organization that typically brings in weekly speakers. We've brought in speakers such as Michael Seibel from Y Combinator or Kyle Porter, who's come from SalesLoft. And with speakers like that, we also have recently launched a new program called the Fellowship Program, which is a Student Run Accelerator program. And we hope that some of the people here who have pitched today and some of the people on this stream right now join our Fellowship Program and get the benefits out of it. Additionally, we have a community Slack, and that's where we have a bustling community of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs who have mentors that they can access to and communicate in that way. Thank you so much, and in the meanwhile, while you guys vote, we'll be sure to come right back and announce the winners. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the nice elevator music. Now we'd like to announce the winners. Once again, congratulations to all the teams here for making it in the top 5 in the first place. Let's give a round of applause.
Also, thank you all for taking the time to vote in the chat. We really appreciate it. It's really meaningful for these teams. So first off, our people's choice is That's So Local, so let's give it up for That's So Local.
And we'll use this time to take a little picture. Thumbs up. All right, thank you so much. Congratulations, guys. Now, for third place, Algae, which we can't take a picture, but congratulations to them.
All right, next up we have our second place winners, Neurogram, congratulations.
All right, sounds good. Congratulations, Van. Now, for first place, our Pitch Perfect winner, we announce That's So Local! Get another picture. All right, awesome, guys. Congratulations. Let's get another round of applause for all the teams. And just in general, guys, thank you so much for attending the event. Once again, thank you for our judges, Hunter, Arisha, and Nakia. Thank you for our sponsors. Thank you to Tech Square TL for giving us the venue, and we hope to see you guys in future events. Thank you so much.